Hossman. I'm coming to you from Todd, North Carolina, where I live. I have three other friends online here, and they are members of the Chiron Brotherhood. And as of November of this year, we will have known each other and been meeting on a relatively regular basis for 26 years. And today we are going to talk about the collective conscious and unconscious. And each member will talk about what he believes the COVID-19 coronavirus effect is on that. And again, remember, this is the collective that we're talking about. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Joe Teagarden. And Joe is in Texas. So Joe, if you would, take it away.
All right. So, yeah, Joe Teagarden here, a couple hours north of Houston. And we're still, I guess, learning the ropes regarding the reopening of businesses and our social experience with one another in public. And there seems to be quite a few people that have taken the attitude that, you know, either there is no COVID, or whatever it is doesn't need to be respected, or for whatever reason, there's an awful lot of people that have just given up the idea altogether about having masks and gloves. And so I'm wondering, you know, I mean, we were talking a little bit about dreams before we went public during today's meeting. And I know that about maybe 2 to 4 weeks ago, my dreams started including episodes with COVID in my dreams. So it definitely has seeped into my subconscious mind, and it's being reflected back to me. And I used to be, there was a period of time in my life where I was being trained as a physician's assistant, and I worked for physicians for a while. And I know that not just a face shield, but having a mask does provide some protection. Somehow the little particles and viruses and, you know, splatter from people gets caught in that mask and protects you. And if you have glasses on, and it definitely keeps you from catching the whatever you might be working with. You know, when you're taking swabs from inside of people's nose or inside of people's mouth, there's a lot of stuff that gets to you. And that's what's true about this COVID thing, is that somehow a lot of us probably have COVID and don't even know it. And so just by breathing, with the little bit of splatter that comes out by breathing, we might be transmitting it to other people without even knowing it. So I'm going to be looking forward to the opportunity to take the antibody test when it comes out. That's about all I've got for today.
Now I'm doing it. I've got myself muted. We're learning this whole Zoom process, so forgive us. Anyway, I'd like to turn it over to George Poirier. George is in the southern part of Atlanta in Georgia. And George, take it away.
Hey, everybody. I'm George Poirier. I live just south of Atlanta. And I'd like to talk today about how I think this worldwide event is affecting the collective consciousness of the planet, as well as the collective unconscious. I think this virus has thrown the collective consciousness of the planet into shock, total shock. I think what it's produced in the collective is a psychic catastrophe. And in any great transition, like the transition from physical death and beyond, the first stage of that transition is shock and denial. And I think the shock part of this is the actual physical aspect of it. The idea that this is a virus that people can contract, and a pretty shocking percentage of those people will actually die. But I think from the unconscious, or the unconscious reaction to this, is what Joe is alluding to, which is denial. And that's very typical also of the first stage of a transition. The denial, in my opinion, is taking the form of this isn't real, it's a fake, it'll never happen to me, and also taking the form of finger pointing. It's this one's fault. It's that one's fault. This is correct. No, that's correct. And there's a whole lot of chaos going on in the middle of all that denial. And I think that what this is producing in the world is a deconstruction, a massive deconstruction of all of our systems, political systems, financial systems, medical systems, on every level. And if you're into astrology at all, Pluto went retrograde on the 2nd of this month, and it's going to stay retrograde until November. So I think the massive deconstructive part of this will last at least from now until November. I think humanity is evolving. And here's what I mean by that. Back at the end of the Bronze Age, around 1250 BC, the human race, which at that time had a bicameral mind, started moving towards left brain dominance. And that was very necessary in order for us to evolve and to survive and to continue to evolve to where we are today. But I think what this time is helping the collective do unconsciously and consciously is to begin to evolve back more to balancing the left and right hemispheres of the human mind, where we become more whole human beings. And I think what that shows up as is a more unified human race that's able to demonstrate a whole lot more love, acceptance, compassion, and out of that will come a new level of creativity that will allow us to create a whole new world. And that's what I think what's going on in the collective consciousness of the planet.
Thanks, George. At this time, I'd like to call on Farah Allen, and Farah is on the north side of Atlanta. Farah, what do you have to say?
I love the vision. I love the vision, George. And I've been feeling the same thing. And, you know, I'm an old hippie, and we talked about this years ago. And it seems to be coming to pass. I feel that, like George said, before any great new awakening, there needs to be a deconstruction. And certainly that's happening in place. But, you know, for me, I noticed, as I was saying earlier in our meeting, you know, I look to see, well, what is it's occurring inside me? And I begin to feel more open and more loving and more accepting of all people. The globe, we are a global community, and we've been in denial, I feel, about that, tremendous denial. There's a lot of separatism. As I tune into my ego or my humanness, I feel it myself. And lately I've been feeling more connection with my soul, my spirit, my essence. And I think the collective is going through a tremendous upheaval around that. I think we're starting to maybe respect and love the things that are closest to us. Our partners, our close friends, for me, even my dog. And I really feel the love inside myself. And in fact, this morning I was, if I had to say, who am I would say I am love. And I'm starting to feel that and wanting to convey that and wanting to be that as I walk in my everyday walk in life. So that's a different kind of experience for me. I believe that what's occurring for me is also happening on some level in the collective consciousness as we begin to look at not just what's in it for me, but also, you know, how does this work for other people? You know, is this a fit for not only me, but for others, meaning the people closest to me in my life and life in general? And so for me, it's bringing us back to integrity and values. I know, you know, when I was young, my dad used to talk about stuff like that, and I would think, oh, I'm never going to be like that, you know, wanting to get back to the old. But for me, that's what this represents, you know, an opportunity to really appreciate and express that appreciation that we have for each other. And not just our friends, not just our family and friends, but also everyone. Because I think what's happening in the collective is we start to see how we're all affected. And each one of us, no matter where we are in the globe, we affect each other. And I don't think we've ever had that experience inside ourselves. I know I haven't. I've thought more in terms of, you know, what's in front of me rather than realizing that I'm being contributed to by people all over the globe at all times, and we're all affected by each other. That's huge when you think about it. In fact, I think I want to stop talking on that one to leave people in the inquiry. If we're affected, all of us, each one of us has an effect on each other, then what effect would we want to have? And as I said earlier, for me, it's, and our brother Colin, who recently passed, always would say, what he said towards the end of his life was, if I had one thing I wanted to bring forth right now, it's radical acceptance. And so that's been happening for me, accepting each other, accepting everyone being as different as they are. So that's what I see about the collective.
Thanks, Vera. I just want to recap a few possibilities. I'm a trans channel, and I've been doing a lot of channeling recently for individuals. And some of the things that have come out show the virus as a perfect process of cleansing for the planet. And when I watch the media, I keep seeing the war on coronavirus and people framing it like it's this massive demon that needs to be overwhelmed or overcome, or we need to triumph over it. And I don't get that there's any real triumph over this other than avoiding sharing it with each other. And it feels to me like it's an opportunity for the planet to cleanse. I mean, there's a whole lot less mechanical vehicles operated out there. There's fewer airplanes. There's less trains, and therefore there's a tremendous decrease in the amount of toxins and pollutants that humanity is sharing with the world. Another aspect of it, it's kind of like, we're kind of like ants on this little ant farm. And instead of moving all over the place, trying to do whatever it is we think we need to do, we're staying in one place, and we are going inside. We are giving ourselves permission to reprioritize what's important to us, like our loved ones, our family. And heaven forbid you've lost someone to this virus. We feel for you, we truly do. There isn't anything glorious about this. I certainly don't mean that. And a lot of people have lost people very close to them. And that's painful no matter what. And at the same time, we have the opportunity to be careful and pay attention. I have a wife who's a little older than I am. She's had hepatitis C. Her immune system is compromised. Even if I didn't pay attention to what this means for me, if I come home with it and give it to her, I'm going to possibly lose her. And I don't want to lose her. I don't want to lose her for a long, long time. So I have had to reprioritize what's important. On a grander scale, I think one thing that's happening, we are moving from a very male-dominated consciousness to a more female-dominated consciousness. And I think if you looked at the statistics of all of the first responders or frontline people, as they're called, you would probably find that there are a whole lot more women in that percentage than there are men. That is interesting. And as Farah pointed out, this is not a national problem. This is a global problem. This is probably one of the first times that I've seen a positive effect of everyone being concerned about what's happening in other countries, what's happening to people of other faiths, what's happening to people of other ethnic backgrounds. And it is a process of unifying all of us as human beings. And that's what I think is happening. So again, I don't want to, for a moment, glorify this particular situation. I want to emphasize the potential perfection of it. And as Farah pointed out, I think if Colin were still with us, Colin Tipping, one of our members, I think if he were still here, he would be asking a couple of questions. One would be, what is the perfection of this? Number two is, what is the lesson in this for the collective? And number three would be, how am I turning away from it? How am I trying to avoid it instead of embracing it and saying, okay, what do I have to learn from this? So I want to say on behalf of all of our members, all the men that have been with us and who are no longer with us, including the guys that are with us, not only in this video, but as a whole, as a group, we send you a lot of love. We ask you to please take care of yourselves and take care of those around you whom you love, and give yourself permission to realize that you are not only enough, you are more than enough.
You are enough.
So for the Chiron Brotherhood, we all wish you the best. Over and out.